Things you'll learn. I should have trusted my higher
Then
self.
you'll listen. If you learn that, you're good.
That's what it seems to be all of it pointing to. When you go through the experiences that your astral self would lead you to, eventually you learn not to listen to the astral self, and you listen more to what your mind tells you, or what the intuition tells you is even better.
Right, you spend all these lifetimes, down to like 80-90% of your lifetimes, learning to what not to do. But in the process, you've learned a lot. You've learned, and what happens is when you go through an experience and you don't learn from it, then your soul puts you in a position where you go through the experience again, but with more intensity. And then with more intensity, now Rick is understanding why. I can just see wheels turning in Rick's mind. Oh man, I must have been through this 100 times.
I sure hope I got it this time.
And so if you kind of like thick like I am sometimes, your soul lets your astral nature take you into experience. You don't learn anything from it, and you think, oh, that was for nothing. That was a crazy thing that happened in my life. I'm never going to do that again. But then you do it again. Okay? You marry the same type of guy again. Like the woman, for instance, marries this guy, beats the dickens out of her. She leaves him, and then she marries another guy that beats her worse. Okay? She leaves him. She marries a third guy now. He just almost kills her. Finally, she wakes up. Oh man, I got to change my ways. I'm going to wind up dead. I'm going to be more selective next time. She finally learns she has to repeat the experience with greater and greater and greater intensity until the pain gets so bad that the person says, "All right, I'll listen. Who is ever doing this to me out there? I'm going to listen this time." And that's kind of the way I feel. You ever had that feeling, right? Who's ever doing that to me? I'm going to. Okay. So,
excuse me, what I think that you learn though in the relationships is not so much who you shouldn't marry next time or what events you should avoid, but you learn something about yourself. Because when you fall in love with somebody, like I fall in love really easy, you don't really love that person yet because you haven't known them long enough. You love the feeling they gave you, and you love the reflection that love gave you. You're projecting your love onto that person. You're projecting what you love in yourself on that person. And so it's really all about you when you fall in love like that type thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then if it's the wrong person, then you realize and you learn stuff about yourself is why was I attracted to that person? Why was I attracted to someone who would treat me this way? What is it about me that I'm seeing here? What lessons have I learned about myself? And that's what you learn is about yourself. And then you get over. Once you've learned that, then you can kind of move on to be treated better because you're treating yourself better. You know what I'm saying?
So would that still be astral leading you into that then? If it's not a reverse reflection but more of a teaching experience, would that still be the astral leading you down?
Well, if you come to wrong conclusions about it, it's against what's logical.
Gotcha. That's astral.
Well, here's another situation that happens regularly with our parents. Say your dad wants you to be, I'm a carpenter, so by damn you're going to be a carpenter too, okay? And so you go along with it. You're a carpenter, you don't like being a carpenter, but you decided to do it anyway, and you're unhappy, you're very miserable being a carpenter. And then in your next life, well, you're in the same situation again. This time your dad just maybe shovels manure, and he has a job that's even worse, that you'd want to do even less. So your dad wants you to do the same thing again in this life, but it's something harder to do. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you resist again, or you just follow your impulses again, and you don't rise above the astral. Maybe in the next life, your dad is on a bomb squad. If you follow in his footsteps, you probably get blown up. So maybe you really don't want to do that at all. So finally you reach a point where you say, I'm going to think for myself. My dad wants me to follow in his footsteps, but I'm going to make up my own mind. And when you reach that point, then you move on to a new lesson. But your astral nature takes you into experience after experience that using your own mind, you would have never done that. using your own mind, if you didn't want to be carpenter, well, you would choose not to be it. But when you're in the astral nature, you don't do what's logical, and you don't do what seems to be in your best interest. You do what is against your best interest, but this leads you into some very interesting experiences where you learn a lot more as you're in a state of progression through this part of your series of lifetimes. You learn a lot more by going into these experience type situations than you would if you had some logical decision making ability. So we go through this, but then we reach a point to where we want to break loose from this. And when we want to break loose from it, then we have to find the next step. We have to find that extra communication. And of course, as we evolve up, we begin to use our minds and fall upon our minds. And then we find out that our minds aren't accurate either. They're accurate if they have all the facts, they're accurate, but they never have a solid starting point. They always have a starting point that is imperfect. We never have all the facts. We're always uncovering more information all the time. And so we can never, by using our minds, start where we will arrive at 100% truth. So we have these two hurdles to overcome. So what happens here is we have the inner spirit where the truth lies. The soul is basically a doorway between the physical reality and the spirit. The soul doesn't exist where physical reality doesn't exist, because the soul is the interplay of spirit and matter. Spirit and matter interplaying produces soul in between. And soul is that energy of the interplay.
Between spirit and what?
Spirit and matter. Okay? And so this is like a doorway. So soul contact is where you contact this point in between, as it's written in esoteric language, the point which is where land, water, and air meet, which is neither wet nor dry. And it's that mysterious point which is the doorway between the physical reality and the spiritual reality. Now, to get to the spirit, you have several layers that you have to go through. And the purpose for us as a group, what we need to do as a group is to remove these layers in all of us. And if we could remove all these layers in all of us, we could make a spiritual contact, one that was so valid that we would all realize a contact has been made and the spiritual flow has been established. Now, the thing about the spirit is the spirit actually doesn't know anything. It's in a consciousness that is beyond form, and all knowledge is connected with form. You think of anything you know, it's connected with form, right? Like your car has so many horsepowers. If your car had no form, well, that horsepower would be meaningless. Or our car is gold in color. Well, if we had no form, well, gold would be meaningless. But spirit, what the spirit can do is recognize truth. It recognizes it rather than has a mind, so to speak, where it has all the truth in its mind. Now, it's an illusion that all truth is within, because there's no truth within. All that is within is the ability to recognize truth, but the truth isn't there. The truth is really without.
But how can if it's not within me, how do I recognize it then?
Because the spirit has the ability to recognize truth. Because spirit interplays through soul with matter, and it recognizes all things transpiring in all worlds.
So truth would have to be presented to me then for me to be able to recognize it?
Right.
But what about some things that I just...
Now, you can present it to yourself.
I was going to say.
You know,
Nothing
by
makes public.
your imagination,
Yeah.
visualization,
Yeah.
reading books. Reading books is actually somebody else presenting it to you. Discussing like we are right here. And then when truth is presented, have you ever been searching for something and something just hit you and you say, yes,
Yes.
why didn't I think of that before? That is just so true. I mean, it just hits you. Everybody had that happen? We've all had that happen. It just feels right. That's because you removed the walls, at least temporarily. And when the walls were removed, that truth was run by the Spirit, and when it's run by the Spirit vibrates. When it vibrates, so you get that feeling, yes, why didn't I can see it, I just know that that's true. Even though there's no way to prove it, even though you didn't come across using normal logic, it was just presented to you, and it just seems so right. Now, even in this truth there is sometimes some illusion. Because, let's say, you're progressing from this point here is pretty much close to absolute truth as you can get. But as you're at this point, you have a decision to go this direction, or this direction. Now, this here, it still has some illusion in it, but it's the right direction. See? There's still things right here that are not 100% true. There's still, because you got a distance to go to the real truth. But this way, this decision takes you off into a completely wrong path. And if you make this decision, you're going to have to go this way and then come back and start all over. If you go this way, you'll have to come back and eventually wind up at this point. Now, when these three directions are run by the Spirit, through your soul to the Spirit, and you're contemplating going here, you may receive a vibration from your. That vibration doesn't mean that this is 100% true, but it means you're headed the direction to the truth. Say like, I had a guy a while back say, he joined the Catholic Church and he just felt, he was 100% sure that was the right thing for him to do. He got a very strong impression and he knew that he's supposed to join the Catholic Church. And he said, oh boy, you know. Well, for him, he had the Catholic Church was a direction, there was something in there he was supposed to learn. And that thing in the Catholic Church that he had to learn was a step to take him here. He probably had a couple more steps first. And he's right up here. But, so his soul may have actually told him that. Now, a lot of us would look at that and say, oh, your soul would never tell you to join the Catholic Church. Catholic Church got all kinds of wrong things in it, you know. And I don't believe in confession or transubstantiation, all those things. Well, the soul, the Spirit may not believe in it either, but it tells him this is the right direction for you. You're headed in the direction of the truth. So your soul will confirm to you if you're either headed in the direction of the truth or going to a point of truth. It vibrates when the truth is being approached. And as the truth is being approached, your soul will vibrate. Now with my book, I present it as a combination of fact and fiction. And a lot of people write me letters saying, well, I know this book is 100% true. I've got witness from my soul. Okay? The book is not 100% true. The principles in it are true, but the direction of that the book takes people is so accurate. And it takes them in the direction of a truth that their soul will vibrate. And they'll feel that vibration, and they misinterpret it to think, this is 100% true. I mean, everything. I don't care what the guy tells me. This is true. I mean, I have people come and chew me out for saying it's a combination of fact and fiction. I actually have people chew me out for that. But the point is, because they can't understand if there's anything in that book that is not true, Why did I receive this place? This is why, because it takes them from here to here. And now, once they're here, then they can see the next step. And that's why many people and feel the Spirit filtering through the soul, saying yes. That's why they feel